Welcome to Indian Cine-MANIACS. Hey, everybody, what's happening?
Hello.
Hey, Ralph.
Love the Oscars. Love the dance.
I think
That's
we
big
should
night.
talk about that
Oh,
right away. Get
right
that out
into
right
it.
away. I was a little, I'll be honest, I was a little nervous when Jimmy Kimmel did that whole thing where he says, if you hear the music, then the RRR dancers are going to come out and get you. And, you know, I said, oh my God, they're actually going to destroy this number.
I think everyone was hesitant about
And
what
then
they
I
were
heard
gonna
David
do.
Byrne's rendition of the song he did, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to win the whole thing once that thing comes out. And it was unbelievable.
It was great. They really did a nice job. I thought for sure they were going to glam it up and Hollywoodize it, but they kept to the roots of it, and I thought it was really, really well done. And the people went nuts. The audience went nuts.
Yeah.
Every time the song was mentioned, the audience went nuts.
I mean, it's a huge hit. Let's just say it's, you know, it's popular over here right now. And the way go ahead.
Let's not forget that India had another good moment there.
Yes, they did.
The Elephant Whisperer winning Best Live Action Short or documentary.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yep. They won 2 Oscars. It's nice.
Well, and frankly, the man who wrote, or the man who was part of the writing of Nacho gave the best speech of the night, as far as except for the kid the guy who won on Everything Everywhere, whatever. That guy.
Are you talking about M.M. Kiravani singing The Carpenters? Because
that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That was great.
It was very sweet.
It was very sweet.
I think my favorite part of the whole thing was afterwards when they interviewed the cast and the directors about how they felt about winning and stuff. All those interviews, their complete joy. Like, you know, a lot of them, they try to, are you bummed that you weren't nominated for an Oscar? And they're like, look, we're here at the Oscars. This one. I mean, this is like a dream come true for, and they all want to do Marvel movies too, but they're just joy, like they're fanboys. It was an amazing thing to see.
Why wasn't it part of why couldn't it have been on the as an international film?
Because the country picked them.
Yeah. And they can only pick one, right?
Picked the more serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Only one movie can come from each country. So like if you see 2 French movies in a year and you love both of them, only one could actually ever be considered. And then of course once that list is in, then the Academy has to decide which ones they're going to nominate. And so the movie that came from India this year, I cannot remember the name of it, it's Gujarati film. It's supposed to be quite good, but you know, it wasn't in contention.
Look, the reality is this
good
movie,
in a different way than RRR.
It didn't get nominated for an Oscar, but 5 years from now, this is the movie they're going to be talking about. They're not going to be talking about any of the other films, I think, that were nominated or even won. So as far as they're concerned, they're already in the DNA of this country. They're already talking a sequel. So that tells you where they're at. So they're happy as can be.
Well, I got a feeling those 2 actors, we're going to be seeing them in more American films
I can't see, but because I mean, they're like even. This is going to sound so stupid, but the one guy with the beard, Drew knows their name.
RT Jr. Yeah.
How articulate he was. Like he speaks like 5 different languages. It was amazing to listen to him talking, you know, like even the other guy. It was just really cool to just hear these guys and how happy.
It's funny. Some people in India have been busting on social media, on NTR for talking deliberately too American or something. I'm like, I don't know. He sounds like he's having a great time, and he's chatting it up. So what's the problem?
He's loving it.
Well, the other thing I'm learning is how interconnected everybody is in that production community. I mean, they're all families. There's families and husbands and wives and all that. Now, I'm going to stir a little controversy. And I just like to throw this out.
They sped it up in the show.
No. Seeing it live, you realize that there was some trickery going on during the movie, and I think it was just frame rate. Because it's, you know, they look like regular human beings dancing up there at the Oscars. Like it looked like regular human beings dancing.
Because there was one point where they were the 2 guys were out front, and it almost looked like they slowed the film down, but it wasn't. It was just the way they were dancing that it looked like they were screwing with the frame rate on the stage.
At the Oscars, you mean on the stage?
Yes,
in the live show.
There's little scene.
They were just tired.
Well, I'll tell you, it was, and the synchronization of, because the 2 actors talked about the most difficult thing was the synchronization of the suspenders.
Yeah.
That if they were off by an inch from each other, he would shoot it again. Well, at one point, they had like 10 dancers on there doing that, and they were almost in perfect sync.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you see the
really
Vanity
impressive,
Fair video when the director, the Vanity Fair video where the director blocked out that scene?
Yeah.
And those suspenders were fake.
Yeah, well,
like, they weren't fake.
Well,
they were
longer.
They were designed for all that.
Yeah.
The other thing is they really set up. Go ahead.
I do have one bone to pick with the Academy. I follow these people on social media, and I know that Rajamouli and his wife and Prem, who's the choreographer, they were there. And I saw pictures of Ram Charan and his wife had a seat on the somewhere on the lower level. Rajamouli and his wife were in the very last row at the back of the balcony, which in general, that's not really cool. But they didn't cut to anybody else involved in the movie. Like, I am sure if they had cut to Rajamouli's reaction to this winning, it would have been one of those big joyful moments of the Oscars. And I know it was because somebody actually shot it on their phone and posted it. And I just think it sucks that, I mean, of all the Oscars that were going to win last night, that was pretty close to a lock. Yeah. They could have set something up so that you could see it live, because these people are so joyful, like you were saying, about being involved. So I think that was a little disappointing. But
I noticed that too.
A lot of the winners,
at the very back wall.
Yeah, like literally the last possible furthest place you could sit.
Oh God.
A lot of they were put up there with the people's mothers, because a lot of people shouted out to their mothers, and they're like, they're up in the balcony, and they'd be like, yeah. You know, so
but it was wonderful that they got global recognition.
Well, and they really, the dance number that they did really represented the film very well. The actors that they had,
even the background with the
Jenny and the bad British guy who caused, started the whole dance. Yeah, and they had the Ukraine cap, whatever, the Ukraine building. They really did a good job. I was worried that they were going to mess it up.
Yeah. Because they have done that in the past.
Yeah, but they didn't.
And it messed up songs I liked in the past too.
Yeah, and it was worth every minute of watching them win that one. So that was pretty cool.
Well, you know what? The other thing that's nice about it, that category, as far as all the categories in the Oscars, that's one of the sillier ones, because generally it's a song like Lady Gaga's song is fine, but that's the song that they played during the credits. And if you think of like your favorite stage musical, and then they made a movie of your favorite stage musical, none of those famous songs are eligible. It has to be an original song. So they'll write some extra song for The Little Mermaid or something, and then that'll be nominated. This was a song that was not only a fantastic song, it was a hit song in India before the movie came out. It's part of the story. It drives the story forward. It develops the characters. It's just like, if you're going to give an award to a song in a movie, that is everything you want it to be.
It's interesting because that definitely, this propelled the movie, and it's a song that propels the movie, which is unusual, like you said. Even that David Byrne thing, I don't know what he was trying to do. Anyway, so okay, that was awesome to see that. So Sean is we're going to talk about this film.
One more quick thing. And I'm going to throw this out here. I think the fact that Naatu Naatu was nominated had a lot to do with it. I saw that now don't get me wrong, last year's viewership was like the lowest it's ever been, but it was literally up like 18% this year compared to last year. So
more people watched.
More people watched this year than
they watched because they wanted to see if anybody would slap anybody.
That too.
Well, they were gonna, I mean,
but it was still only 16 million. I mean,
it wasn't a big hit.
Well, that's amazing.
Nobody's watching.
And it was a good production. They did a good job. This production.
No, this was the first time in years I really enjoyed the Oscars.
It was still way too slow.
But that's
why they dropped Disney dropped the Little Mermaid commercial in the middle.
Yeah, that was weird.
All the commercials for FX, and it's just like, okay, we get it. Move on. Just show this thing and go.
Yeah, there was some dispute at our house whether that's ever been done before, but I don't remember it being done with the commercial.
Oh, like the Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah,
it reminded me of
for a movie in the show.
Yeah, that's what we call an FTC violation, because if you do that on the internet, you have to say this is a movie that's made by this company, that's the same company as the company that's making the show that you're watching on the network, owned by the same company.
I don't think it has ever been done. Because they made
they run ads for the movies in between, and that's fine. But this was like literally showed the trailer, which
but because they went up and presented Elizabeth McCarthy or whatever her name, McCarthy, and the woman playing Ariel, they presented it like they were presenting some award, and all they were doing was presenting the commercial.
A commercial.
But is that why they did the Warner Brothers thing in the middle of it too?
That was weird too.
You know what? That was like a real slap in the face.
To who?
Will Smith, Ralph.
Here we go.
You got to keep up with it.
I'm sorry.
You really got to keep up with it.
You know what? I've completely forgotten about the Will Smith slap.
Ralph, this is a TV show. You know
it's a TV show.
TV show.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna do we're gonna review this film.
The movie.
Then we're gonna spin the wheel. We have 3 left, I think. Two of them
That
are
sounds right.
American films.
Well, I think
One
you've
of
got
them
to
isn't.
stick around because you relabeled the wheel, didn't you?
No, the wheel has a new name.
The wheel has a new title, so
and
stick
one of
around
our
for
viewers
that.
gave us a name. I'm giving full credit. I don't know which one, but one of our viewers gave the name. So
Well, that's not full
thank you.
credit then.
Full credit that I don't know who that person is. We
Okay.
did it.
An anonymous viewer.
We gave
Thank
some
you.
credit on our other show, and it turned out we were talking about a woman when. We
Oh,
thought it was a man.
you know what? Let me say that right now.
Yeah,
I was
learn the
calling
pronoun.
him Wolverine Pagan, but her
Wolverina
name is
Pagan.
Wolverina Pagan.
Okay,
So I want to apologize. She's a great viewer and gives us a lot of comments. So shout out to you, Wolverina. I apologize for that. So sorry.
all right, Sean, take it away. What do we got?
Okay, this week we watched Raatchasan, which is about a sub-inspector who sets out in pursuit of a mysterious serial killer who targets teen girls and murders them brutally.
Yes, he does.
And he does murder them brutally.
Yes.
It was directed by Ram Kumar, and it's from 2018. And it's kind of a departure for us because it's the first real contemporary gruesome crime story, I think. We did watch.
Based on those parameters, you are correct.
Yeah. But it's, this is like a somewhat graphic, brutal murder film.
They murder kids in this one.
Yeah, and murdered kids.
Yeah.
So it is really, it's kind of a departure, but of course, it's an Indian film, so we're used to huge tonal shifts. So that's the film. I'm curious what everyone thought about it.
Well, first,
but-
let's also mention that he was a film director.
Oh,
directing,
yeah. No, he was
directing. He had a whole room of. He was doing a serial killer. He was doing, I think, a documentary. Or I can't.
No, he wanted to make a movie about serial killers, and the conceit is that he couldn't get anybody to buy into it,
Right.
so he had to go work for his brother-in-law's job, which is being a policeman. And then, of course, he catches a case that's I can put all the serial killer knowledge to use. I mean, that's the main conceit that gets the story going.
Well,
it's fine.
It's the dream of every screenwriter to do something relevant in the world.
Right.
This film talks about it.
And the director also wrote this, by the way. It was written and directed by him.
Yeah.
This is the second film in a row, Indian film in a row, where someone's brother-in-law is a police officer.
It's funny. We'll get into it a little bit, but the way they also treat the middle management cops in these police officers in these films, never really positive. Like the woman who plays the middle one in this one, he's a sub-inspector, and I guess his brother-in-law is a sub-inspector as well. They're always the heroes. Like the middle ones are always kind of like in all of our films, they're the ones that know what's going on, but nobody believes them. They're the ones like this woman didn't want to help at all.
Well,
It's
this
interesting.
movie is very Western. I mean, she's basically, the sergeant or
Who doesn't believe
lieutenant
anything.
character
Yeah.
in a Beverly Hills Cop movie.
You got 48
or
hours
any
to
of that
solve
stuff.
this, and then you're out.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And,
maybe
they're always
that's
getting in
what-
the way. I think, and I mean, this is definitely one of the more Western movies that we've watched, and it was unusual in India and the scale of it, and that it was Tamil language, and this was like another big jump forward for a regional film thing. But it is, I mean, this is basically this isn't a criticism. It's like one of the many movies that's spun out of people's very happy experiences with stuff like Seven and Silence of the Lambs. I mean, you don't have this movie without that whole era of all these disgusting killers and usually preying on women or children and all this other stuff. And we'll talk about it more. This is for the most part a reasonable example of that genre of film. It's hard to compare it to something like Seven, which was just like this transcendent, unbelievable thing, but it's entertaining in that way. And I'm going to say creepy and a mystery and blah blah blah. So
there's a lot of crappy serial killer movies produced on this in America.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to say, I think this is not a very good serial killer produced over there. I like the fact that he was referencing all the serial killers. BTK had a big part in this. Kept showing pictures of BTK. Kept showing pictures in his big book of everybody. I did like those call outs. But as the story, and we'll get into like this person who ends up being the killer. And the way
we
set
have
that
to
up.
announce we're going to spoil it.
Do we have to? I mean, how old is this?
2018. It's not
okay.
that
So
old.
we'll do a spoiler down the road then. Okay.
Yeah, because I was about to say You really can't talk about the film.
Okay,
without-
but I
Well,
mean, there-
no, we can talk about tones and stuff. We just can't give away plot till we get to that section because there is spoilers big time.
right. I thought this.
Yeah.
How long? So you said 2018?
2018,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's everybody think?
Yeah, it's funny. There was a couple of surprises in this movie that we'll talk about a little bit later. But one of the things I did really enjoy was I think this is the first movie we've watched, at least, where one of the main characters wanted to get into movies over there, over in in India, which India has a massive cinema culture, right, and a massive cinema industry, obviously. But it seems like half the movies that are produced over here are not half, but there seem to be a plenty of films about guys who want to make movies that get involved with something that's over their head, or they have like a lot of knowledge of movies. So I kind of enjoyed that part of it because it is like, I think it's every cinema lover's dream to be like, oh, I'm going to put all those crazy things I learned in the movies and I'm going to put them to use and I'm going to pull off something incredible with it. And so that part I was kind of into. But it started for me, it started to kind of go downhill. And maybe this is just, I get a little older, I have a little less stomach for it, but it was really brutal. Like really, like almost to the point where I was like put off a little bit. And that's something I find in modern movies too, like American films as well. When I see a really kind of like, I can't do Saw, I can't do any of those kind of torture porn movies, where there's a lot of really graphic cruelty to a person. Not that, I understand terrible things happen in real life, but so that actually put me off the film a little bit. Like I said, maybe I just don't have the stomach for it anymore, but I thought it was kind of an interesting premise. I just felt like before we get into spoilers and stuff, I just felt like the investigative part of it was a little bit weak. We've seen so many of these movies. There's so many procedural TV shows. You kind of have a feeling like you want to see some real creative evidence gathering or detective work. And I just didn't feel like we saw a lot of that in this film.
I would say there was more detective work in The Batman than in this movie.
Still haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, everything just came to him. It just happened.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just happened. He had an idea, and then that next thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, we'll talk, like we keep saying this, but we'll talk
It's hard.
about it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Everything wrapped up. I know it's everything wrapped up so quickly and then so slowly at the same time. It was such a
Yeah, and I don't mind if something coincidental happens. Like you could get in a cab
happens all the time.
and have a lady that you like, and it turns out she's this like very important character at the end of the movie type of thing. That's fine. But this happened, as Chris is saying, that happened like 4 times in this movie. And it's like, it's good that you know which rickshaw you're looking for, but you were just in it and then you noticed it as it went around the corner. Like it was just, I don't know. I thought it was going to turn out that somebody was actually baiting him. Like somebody didn't like him and knew that he was obsessed with serial killers, and they were like, "All right, I'll do this to punish you." Like it was going to turn out to be Old Boy or some vengeance thing or something, and it wasn't, which is fine. I mean, I'm not upset at a movie for not being what I thought it was going to be, but I thought that could have kind of explained some of those you're lucky it's not really Law and Order type of moments.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one thing I'll say, I felt the film was very bold in a way an American film wouldn't be in choosing who the victims are.
Oh yeah,
That's
oh
fair.
my God.
Yep.
I mean, we can't talk about that now, but it's like, holy crap! If you're a woman in this film,
Not just a woman, a young woman.
a young woman in this film, don't expect to.
I found that surprising because their culture is like, like physical contact between a man and a woman. They don't really show. So it was very brutal what they did show. And I was kind of surprised. That kind of surprised me. I actually liked this movie. It kept my interest. I was interested in how they were going to resolve it. Now, it's not without criticism because the first 45 minutes, it almost seemed like it was a comedy.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get that. Then all of a sudden it turns into this very brutal, serious serial killer movie. And I know there's tonal shifts in these movies. We talk about that all the time. But that one was pretty harsh compared to the opening of the movie. I thought the actor, Vishnu Vishal, who played Aaron, the lead character, I really liked him. I thought he was very good in this movie. Yeah. And his desperation as the tension was building, I really liked. Yeah, things came a little easy as far as solving the mystery. I don't dispute that. And also, I had issues with once the identity of the serial killer is found out. I had criticism about that, which I'll talk about. But it definitely kept my interest, and I was curious about, again, who was doing it, why they were doing it, and how they were going to catch this person before he killed somebody, or before they killed somebody else. So I like it. Was very different from the other movies we've seen. So I really liked it.
And we should be clear about something too. We're seeing the aftermath of whatever this person did to these girls.
Right.
We're not really seeing.
Right. That's true. That's fair. That's a fair point.
We're seeing the aftermath now.
Right.
It's pretty gross what they're showing, but we're not seeing them getting killed. We're seeing the aftermath.
Yeah, it's effective enough to say things like he drilled their eyes out. I don't need to
that
see
we
them
don't need
drill their
right.
eyes
Need
out,
to see
that's like Saw. I'm not a torture porn guy either. So
yeah.
And
Although
I've seen
he's
a lot
pretty
of those
lethal
movies,
with
so
a
I'm
playing
sure that
card.
I'm not
We
a
saw
torture
that.
porn guy.
We saw that.
If Uncle Al was still here, he'd be disappointed.
Yeah, his criticism would be, I didn't see the murders. I want to see those things. So,
right.
But
even what they did show was just.
Well, it's like you
brutal.
said. Like you said, it's who was murdered that kind of gets that thing going. So I think we should just. Debbie, do you have anything you want to add before we go into spoilers?
Movie. I really did. I love the twists and the turns. I don't know if we can talk about it now.
Not yet.
But sort of like halfway through the movie, I thought it was somebody. And, well, you know, we all know who that was. But I'm glad to see that we're not the only ones, the only country or area that have serial killers. You know, that this was depicted in their film.
Wait, you're happy that we're not the only ones that have
sick,
serial
isn't
killers?
it? That's a sick way of thinking, isn't it?
Well, that is kind of
Well,
sick.
I hate for us to have that kind of privilege.
Yeah.
You don't want to be number one? We'd be
We're
number
so good
one.
at everything we
No,
do.
I
like
think
that.
so.
I think we probably are number one.
Numbers.
Yeah. Although there's some guy in Russia
numbers,
that there's some Russian serial killers
that's-
that are pretty strong.
That's the whole premise of that Michael J. Fox movie by Peter Jackson, The Frighteners, where
That's
Jake
great.
Busey is a serial killer who actually comes back from the dead and keeps killing because he wants America to have the top score.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we want to be the best.
Great film,
It's a
by
great
the way.
movie, by the way.
Robert Zemeckis, right?
I tell you, I
No, it was
love,
Peter Jackson.
Oh, Peter Jackson, right. Oh,
I
that's
loved
right.
watching Debbie watch this movie because it was so suspenseful. She would like stand up.
I would
and
stand up.
and do a little walk around.
I'm so surprised that you were not put off by, you know, who was getting murdered.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! But as long as we didn't see that, you know,
Yeah.
we did not see any of that. They were carrying our consciousness.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point though, Ralph. If they actually showed it, it would have been a much different experience.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So
Especially okay, can we just say now we're doing spoilers?
okay,
'Cause
now
Spoilers.
it is the spoiler section. If you have not seen the film, do not watch this one. But come back for the labeling of the wheel. We'll put it in below in the comments.
Yeah, I can't say that name every time. So
That's all right.
Yeah, so he's murdering young girls, 13-year-old schoolgirls. And the most surprising murder was the niece of the guy, the head
Oh
guy.
my
That,
God, yeah.
Oh,
and that would never happen. She would have been saved 98% of the time in an American film.
in
Yeah.
a Hollywood version.
In a Hollywood version. And they let her die and get murdered by this person. And I'm shocked. I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
And not pleasantly shocked. You know, I was like, okay, I didn't like it. I want to see somebody have a little bit of, I mean, ultimately he ends up saving who becomes his stepdaughter, I guess.
But
That's the one part of the plot I didn't understand. I guess he hooked up with the teacher that he went in and met with.
Wouldn't you?
Of course
Yeah,
I
I
would,
mean-
but I didn't. It kind of just happened, right? Or did I fall asleep in the middle?
No, I
Well,
don't think
let's
it
look at
happened.
another thing that's completely
Amala Paul.
unethical too is when they figure out who the killer is and they know who the next victim is, they'd like give her a slight warning, like call the police or fight, but then they use her as a guinea pig without even telling her. You know, I mean,
no, they use her as bait.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
big,
do that. I've seen that in our films. I've seen
Yeah,
that.
but
kind of-
that, you know, it's
And they
sort
end
of
up being
like
twins.
But we don't do that anymore. Police work.
Go
Yeah.
figure that
She
one
was
out.
actually a 37-year-old woman from Romania.
yeah.
Um,
But
Yeah.
for me, that's like, imagine if that had gone wrong, and in this movie it could have.
yeah.
You know, it's like it would be, you know, that'd be a hard time explaining that in the press.
Well, that was one of the contrived things when they're tailing her and then the truck blocks them. I mean,
Sure.
that was so contrived. But one of my biggest complaints was when the niece and the guy's daughter gets killed, his reaction to it was not believable to me.
The father,
your daughter,
or
you just found your daughter in a trunk, brutally murdered, and it barely registered on not the guy who played Aran, but the brother. You know, the actual guy.
No, he didn't want his wife to find out.
I know, but
I believe that actually the shock. I mean, you can't really imagine in real life what the shock of that would be, and
I think
he wanted to protect her from it.
But that was before she was out. His initial reaction was barely registered. That I understand when the wife came out, you want to hide it from her. But that to me just came across.
He was in total shock. I mean,
it didn't feel inauthentic.
Okay, so this person is murdering young schoolgirls. Shocking, and
who look
that,
alike too.
That very first thing they open up and you see the skull wrapped in the paper and all that. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, she was dead.
That's one of the tough things. The second one is the serial killer /
Nice Jack Nance, by the way.
mother son thing.
There you go. See, thank you.
What's that?
He made a Twin Peaks reference, and Jack Nance was the guy who delivered it.
Yeah,
she's dead, wrapped in plastic.
So what was the story there? This person, was that the same actor playing both parts?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Well, I immediately, the first time I saw the woman, thought, it's a man, baby.
I thought that, yeah.
You're talking about the first time you saw her?
Well, when she's doing the
It
magic.
was so far back on that stage, you couldn't
No, but I mean the first time you could literally see her.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
Even when she was doing the magic.
Guy the first time I saw her.
You did, because I mean,
wig and everything.
Yeah.
I see.
It was a Tony Perkins sort of rip-off.
There was definitely a weird look to that person,
Like
the
Mom.
actor. And I don't know if
Hitchcockian.
okay, so you have that. So that's a guy. It looked like a man playing a female.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that person was a female. That was not someone in drag. That was supposed to be a female character, right?
No.
Initially.
No, they had to do all the makeup.
The magician that you see that's going to schools and is luring people away and stuff is the son of a woman who was a magician.
Right.
And the son is now dressing like his mother.
Oh my God!
And putting on
that's
the wig.
Totally missed that.
As a son,
what I wrote because he has progeria, which makes him age faster. And
like
I said
Robin
when he
Williams.
pulls his wig off, he looks like Kevin Spacey playing Benjamin Button. And I found the makeup super distracting. I also thought, as soon as I saw, even at a distance, that this person is dressed as a woman but isn't a woman, I said, okay, well, that's the killer. And they fooled me a little because they made that teacher so evil.
Right.
I said, okay, well, this guy must be part of it or something. And that was a good misdirect. Like, that's not really the killer because it's too soon in the movie.
You know what?
But
We didn't even mention
monster.
that before. That whole teacher, that subplot with the teacher, that was disturbing.
Yeah, that was
really
creepy.
disturbing.
As hell. Right.
That shocked me when I saw that.
And the acting was really good too,
Oh,
both
my
of him
God.
and the victims. It was very
Did
good.
we see that teacher before in something?
That actor? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
No, that is a Indian person, and the person they did the makeup. Sorry, hit the symbol. What I noticed they had a white prosthetic Caucasian appearance to that serial killer.
I thought that too. I thought that's a
I thought that,
non-Indian actor playing that part. I don't know.
It was an Indian actor playing it, but they did a white prosthetic.
That's my other criticism. I thought the makeup was terrible for both characters.
Well,
I thought it was
all
awful.
plastic.
Okay, so let me get this
What's that
straight.
TV show,
So,
Portlandia? Who's the lead actor in that? I can't even think of his name.
Saturday Night Live guy?
Fred Armisen?
Fred. That's who when Fred Armisen plays a woman on Saturday Night Live, that's what that guy. That's what he reminded me.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So when that person's doing the magic show in the school, that's him dressed as his mother. Okay,
Right.
Correct.
and he's going there to pick off girls. That's why he's doing the magic.
His volunteers he brings up on stage.
that they end up getting killed.
That's right.
But at the end, he's full blown Peter as the old kid or whatever. In that
Because
weird
they know
makeup.
he's the woman now.
Okay.
So the
They
disguise won't
figured that
work.
out pretty quickly. That's the
Right.
one thing that they figured out like that.
Right.
Well, here's one thing I don't like about serial killers. It's sort of like Seven.
thing.
I don't like serial killers,
Okay, good.
but
Good
it's like
Finish that.
I don't think backstory helps. It's like Seven is like perfect. We don't really know anything other than what he tells, and it's sort of like Silence of the Lambs. That's all I needed to know about Hannibal Lecter. And then when you have that sequel or prequel where it has his backstory, it's like, oh, it just takes away the menace. You know what I mean? And I felt the same way about the Halloween movies when they did the one that had the Michael Myers sort of like backstory too. It's like I knew everything I needed to know about Michael Myers in the first Halloween movie, you know, and I know that the author of Hannibal didn't want to go there, but of course, you know, he
did that on purpose. He was pissed. That's why he did all that.
Yeah, but it's sort of like
and he got them together.
And see Kevin, a prequel with the Kevin Spacey character from.
All right, so you're saying that the backstory of I mean, but it's such a weird.
Yeah, but he was targeting a specific look, and there was a reason why. That didn't bother me. I mean, I wanted to know why this person was doing this.
I don't know.
Maybe they spent a little too much time.
Here's the thing: is I had sympathy for the mother magician. You know what I mean? Here she was trying to raise her son, and this one girl was being nice to him, and she really appreciated that, and then it went sour. You know what I mean? Well, and who doesn't love their son so much?
Right, but you're saying you felt sympathy till he set up the girl getting killed. She set up the girl getting killed by the son.
The mother, the magician.
Yeah, but she's the one who set it up.
She's the one who started
to kill the girl. With her blessing, he was killing this girl.
Right.
I think the killings came with him imitating his mother.
No, not the first one.
No, the first one was when
the first one in the flashback. She was there watching him while he's in the bedroom smashing the girl.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, so she, you know, you're right. She did it because she loves him, but she's a psychotic too.
That's how mothers are with their sons, you know.
Mothers are psychotic. You're right.
Well, but that's also, I mean, that's also a staple of the genre. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was called The Cell. It was the Jennifer Lopez, Vince Vaughn movie. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio was a serial killer, and he had to like kidnap you and put you in a big box and drown you, and then when you were drowned, he had to bleach your body and then hang himself from hooks in his back over, all because of what happened when he was a kid with his abusive like that. That's just part of like the whole thing.
Psycho.
My mom was creepy,
what about
so I'm psycho. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's fine.
A trope.
That didn't bother me. But I mean, it literally became Psycho.
No, the only thing
he's dressing up like his mom.
Having that backstory didn't bother me. It's the makeup. I couldn't get past the makeup.
That was very distracting.
You know, like what are they? Why are they doing it? Why is it so weird? Now I understand he's the older kid, the Benjamin Button part. You get it. Okay, he's that. I mean, that gets us to that final confrontation. I
think I have an idea why they did that, Ralph. They don't want to accuse another Indian guy of doing such a terrible, heinous crime. They pick a white person to do it.
I don't know about that. All these films have guys getting killed all over the place. Maybe. It did strike me. It did strike me that serial killer had a Caucasian look.
I don't.
And I couldn't wrap my head around why that was. You may be right. I have no idea.
That makeup was just lame. But both the makeups when he was playing the woman and when he was supposed to be old, it was just not good. It was
nowhere near as cheerful as Robin Williams in Jack, who had the same disease.
No, I kept thinking of that Six Flags guy. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, you're right. It is the old man.
That's a good call.
So, you know, and that end confrontation that just like, you know, at any minute, somebody should have killed somebody right away, but they have to do all these card tricks and things. The cards are coming out of wherever the hell. I get he was a great magician, but
there's no gravity at some point.
Come on. Right. Yeah. So that's why I slowly but surely drifted out of this because of the makeup, because of now every once in a while I'd snap back in because I love serial killer films.
And it was suspenseful.
I thought that his bringing serial killer information to this story and mapping things out and following it, I thought that was an interesting, intricate detail that I think they could have used more, but they went off on this other thing. And I don't know, again, culturally, this is why we have trouble a lot with these films is there may be meanings behind all of this that we just miss. I don't know. I don't know why they would put that guy in a Caucasian looking thing. I have no idea.
I don't know if they were putting him in Caucasian. I just think it was the makeup that they did to make him look old. It just wasn't good. I don't think they did a conscious effort to make him Caucasian. I don't, you know, maybe they did. I don't know. Somebody will tell us, I'm sure. And I like the fact that he got a movie deal at the end.
He did.
Yeah, that was
did he take it?
Well, of course he took it. You see his eyes light up?
Yeah. When did he hook up with the teacher?
I don't think they hooked up.
I don't mean literally have sex.
He was going over there all the time. You know,
Yeah,
when
he
they
was
were doing the
courting her.
all the
montages.
time.
Yeah,
He was courting her, and
she
looking
was a
after the
hottie
kid,
too,
Was
by the way.
looking after
we know.
her
She was
daughter,
cute.
her would-be daughter.
Yeah.
But you notice, Ralph, his choice would be either a sub. What do they call him?
Sub-inspector.
Sub-inspector. That sounds like less than an inspector, way far.
Yeah.
And or a movie guy. I think he's going to choose.
Well, I was
movie
very,
career.
I was very confused by the word sub-inspector. In this, it seems to mean he's a trainee. But there was another film where they're like, oh, this person's the sub-inspector, and it seemed to have a higher rank. So I was kind of confused.
Isn't it like a detective? Isn't it like
Yeah.
India's version of a detective?
Yeah,
I'm,
but
I'm
it's
sure
up-
what it is.
Like a less than.
Yeah, I'm sure that the sub-inspector might just be the equivalent of like a standard everyday detective, while a full inspector is probably the equivalent of like a lieutenant detective.
Yeah.
Or
I
detective.
mean, wouldn't this guy go on and go, I'm going to use all my film. I'm going to become the serial killer hunter of India, right? Now
Yeah,
he's
to
got
me,
this,
that would be
Right.
more cool.
Yeah.
he's got this full-blown
Oh,
career,
that's
and he
good.
uses his film stuff like he still has that room with
Yeah.
all the wires leading to every serial killer ever known to mankind.
But his dream is to write screenplays for the movies, not
well,
to be a serial
sometimes
killer.
you just got to go after what
Sometimes your
works.
dreams change.
Sean, am I right?
You're 100% right, man.
So I looked it up. A sub-inspector is the lowest rank of an officer in Indian police who can file a charge sheet in court, and who's usually the first investigative officer. So they might supervise some other officers on a scene, that sort of thing, but they're basically the lowest rank of the detectives and the people who rise up in the ranks, which would be an appropriate place to start, except he only started in that part of the career because he had the connection.
Right.
Like he probably should have started on the street or in the academy or something like that. So that's what that means. I think I read that as, I didn't know what I just told you, but I read that as, of course, he's starting higher than he should, and that's not going to bring him a lot of respect, which was, I think, part of why the woman that he worked for resented him so much, because like, who are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the other, Debbie brought that up when we were talking off mic about the caste system and how that plays such an important role in these Indian films that we watch. That, I mean, we have it here. Obviously, there are levels of when you look at people and things like that. It just happens. People do it. But I think in these films, that really is always there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Three Idiots was all about that. Rising through the caste system to catapult yourself to get up in the higher class is always a big important thing.
And also in Super Deluxe, the one guy's complaining, well, why can't I be proud of I can be proud of my job. I can be proud of my country. Why can't I be proud of my caste? And he only married the one woman because she was cast in the same cast, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Now, I had a guy in my, I do Lyft, as the people know, I cart people around. And this guy, he was from India, and he was a doctor now. He was a doctor at Johns Hopkins studying. And he was telling me he was born into the Untouchables. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like this is a golden nugget right here. So I was asking him all these questions. I said, how did that make you feel being in the caste system of the Untouchables? He goes, terrible. He goes, no matter what, you still have that stigma, of being less than everybody else. And he goes, and now here in the United States, I'm a doctor. It's
funny. Usually it's the opposite when you hear people come from other countries, that they were a doctor over there and they're cleaning houses over here or something stupid. I don't know. So Untouchables is a lower caste.
Yeah.
That's the lowest
Oh.
you can become.
Yeah, the Dalit cast is the lowest cast.
Did you ask him to subscribe?
Yes, he is.
Did he push the like button?
I don't know.
I hope we got him.
Well, she's always talking about the Indian films, and she'll be.
Oh, they love
and
that
they're
we love them.
knowledgeable. She
goes, you love our films? I said, yes, I do. We all love your films.
I asked one kid at work to go see RRR before it left the theater, and he actually went, and we had this 45-minute conversation about the film, and he was just like grinning from ear to ear. He had seen it on Netflix too, but didn't have that experience. So does anybody want to say anything else before we
I want to say one thing. Part of the villain and figuring out who the villain is like, it's not it's not convincing. The moment that you see the female magician is like, that's a guy who's not trying very hard.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that. Like if you have a character that is a man that dresses in women's clothing, to some degree that's not convincing, that's fine. That can be part of the story. It just felt like a weird
It's
production
just too,
choice.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of a show. It's also about, as a TV show with 2 seasons. It was also about a serial killer. And one of the main characters was a cross-dresser, a man who dresses a woman in women's clothes, who you could see it, but she was trying, and that lent a kind of a softness to her character that came into play later in the story. It's called Epitafios. It's on HBO. It was on HBO Latino. It's a Mexican series about cops hunting a serial killer. It's better than this. This movie isn't bad or anything. It's better than this, but I hadn't thought about that show in years. So if you want to check out some really interesting stuff that's much closer to the era of Seven, because it's, I don't know, 2004 or something.
I would never put
Epitafios.
this film is not in the 7 category, except for
Exactly.
having a serial killer in there. I mean, this is
But I'm saying it's
like I
inspired
said,
by that.
there's a lot of bad serial killer films that I would put this one in the same category of.
I think that's fair.
And a couple that I got at the Dollar Tree store. There's one in particular that postcards, something about postcards with Jeffrey Dean,
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
that guy. Same idea, like it's so obvious and things are happening and he's solving things like that. And that's the other thing. As soon as they cut to that magician, I go, okay, that's obviously that's a serial killer. And then the second twist they throw in later, but it didn't help it. To me, it didn't help the situation. And then when you get then that climax just
that's what really threw it off for me.
It's like they're literally hiding behind boxes around each other, and he's whipping out the cards. And
well, he's not whipping them. He's making
well,
it slow.
I want to say one thing, because I have been in discussion in the notes, in the comments, about portrayal of Indian police in the films, and almost always the portrayal of the police is one of brutality. And I thought our lead character's evolution was kind of odd. That like when he's first told to go in and beat that man,
right,
he's like repulsed by it. But later in the film, when it's his case, like he has less problem with using brutality, like when it's
I forgot about that scene. I forgot about that scene.
And it's
that
like, to me, it's sort of like, wow, it's like he's the hero, and I think we're supposed to be rooting for him that he's beating this guy. And also, it's a lot easier in this country, though I'm sure they cheat. They're able to track the cell phones. In this country, in theory, you got to get a warrant and everything to track. But if this is like, hey, get us the cell phone, track this cell phone for us. And probably that's true. Not every country has.
But everything in this film happened quick like that. Every time something.
Well, also, keep in mind that whole arc of him not wanting to torture and then becoming quite proficient with the stick, which of course reminded me of Raju's introduction scene in RRR, because he was very good with the stick. I think it reminded me actually of 24, because 24 is one of those series where there's laws and stuff, but there's a clock ticking. We got to do it so we can torture him to get the bomb or whatever like that. And I think that's kind of what he was thinking. I got to save somebody so I can do anything. And I don't think the movie judged that very much, which is probably not a good thing. But it was, at least that was part of his character arc. That was part of him, I guess, becoming a better police officer, because the first time you meet the police, they're smacking that guy's
we've seen that in a bunch of these
feet.
movies. When the cops are questioning somebody, they're beating them
right
up usually.
Which of course, when you torture someone, they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear anyway.
Well, in Drishyam, he slapped a kid, a girl, young girl. So kids are slapped
and
all
the
in these
father
films.
realized he would do it too.
Yeah.
And he knew that would be the turning point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, so the question is, Zuby do or Zuby don't? John.
Zuby do for me, with my criticisms.
Okay. Sean and Debbie.
Zuby do.
Yeah, I liked it too. I found it suspenseful, even though I had problems with some of the backstory and the serial killer makeup. But
I loved all the twists and turns, especially the one twist we didn't talk about, and I'll just be brief, where the girls were twins. I was like, oh.
You would go to the door and thought there was...
Oh, right, yeah.
That was one part. I said, oh man, this is just so full of twists.
Okay, Drew.
I would say Zuby Doo. I'm with John. I have some reservations, but it held my attention, and I enjoyed watching it. So thanks for the recommendation.
Chris?
I'm going to say Zuby don't on this one. It just really didn't do it for me. And then when we finally get to that, the showdown, which turns into like slow-mo Matrix time, it like
Magic Matrix,
yeah. It kind of blew the whole kind of hard-edged realism that they'd been shooting for.
Sure did.
So it kind of...
Well, as soon as I saw that, yeah. So I'm going to say Zuby, not quite a no. I'm sort of in the middle. I don't even know what that would be for us, but
Zuby meh.
Zuby meh. You know, because I like serial killer films. I like the details of the serial killers he was using. I like that he was a film director doing a serial killer film and becoming a cop to do serial killer work. I thought that was in the boldness of killing young girls and including a relative of one of the characters, the main character, to kill that. That's a bold move in any film.
Not to mention the sexual assault of the little girl.
That's right.
And
a lot of really disturbing things that were bold. I thought bold. And then I think they just kind of blew it with the actual serial killer, the mother kid thing and the kid dressing up like
Ralph,
the
I want
mother.
to ask you, because you thought the magician was the mother.
I thought they were both still alive, honestly. I missed
did it
that
change?
completely.
Did it
no,
change your...
not one bit.
Okay.
Because he was not one bit. Because we still had that scene at the end. He was the makeup on him was terrible. But I'm not
my
totally...
biggest complaint is that guy would never pass as a woman. No one would buy that for.
That was a little silly.
You mean
and
as
he's been
him
doing
playing...
this for years?
No,
like he'd show up at a school and, hi, my name's Lauren. I'm a magician. You'd be like, I don't care that you're wearing those clothes, but like, am I supposed to play along? What's happening?
Exactly.
But again, suspend some disbelief. That's what you got to do in films, and I couldn't do it. So, all right. So let's go to the. We only have 3 films left on this thing.
What's the name of the wheel? That's what
I'll tell you when I have to read it because I forget it each time. But, you guys,
it is a majestic long title.
The wheel is now called, thanks to one of our viewers, the Democratic Roulette that dictates destiny. I just think that's so poetic.
Democratic.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Now we have 3 left. 2
BRDD.
2 have Amir Khan in them.
The turd wheel? Is that what you just said?
The turd wheel. One of them is the Forrest Gump. I'm kind of rooting for Lagan here.
Forrest Gump one.
Oh, by the way,
that's
I want to wish
2 out
Amir
of
Khan
3.
a happy birthday. Yesterday was his birthday.
Happy birthday. How old
Happy
is
birthday,
he?
Amir. I think
How
he's
old?
58.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he's a little younger than me.
Good looking guy. All right, here we go.
Hopefully it'll come up Forrest Gump, the movie he apologized for.
Oh, he did.
Did he apologize for it? The only non-Amir Khan movie, right? Son of a... That's not a good birthday present for him.
Oh, no Amir Khan.
I want to apologize to
Sorry.
Amir Khan. We're not celebrating his birthday next week with the film.
Like Stars on Earth does indeed star Amir Khan.
Yes, it does.
What?
Yes,
All
it does.
3 star
I didn't
Amir
know that.
Khan?
Yeah, there he is.
Well, happy. And what's this one
it's
about?
It's on Netflix.
You've looked it up.
It's about an 8-year-old boy is thought to be a lazy troublemaker until the new art teacher, played by Amir Khan, has the patience and compassion to discover
I have seen a
real
musical
behind
number.
trouble behind his struggles in school, which is that his mother's a magician.
No.
What?
Sorry.
I've
Well,
seen
can I ask-
this,
I forget. Were there any musical numbers in the serial killer? There weren't, right?
There was one. I thought there was a musical interlude.
There was one kind of toward the beginning between with the teacher, I thought.
Yeah, the teacher.
Yeah, there was
Oh.
kind of like a, I don't remember if they were actually singing or if it was more like, hey,
Just a
it's
song.
I
That
think-
might happen in a John Waters serial killer film. He might drop a musical in the middle of that, but I haven't
This
seen
one's
it.
got
Yeah,
a
it's
big
while they were.
number
It was
that
while they were
happens in the
searching
classroom.
for. They were like getting romantic as they were searching for rickshaws.
Okay. All right, so we do have an Amir Khan film to watch.
I'm
Amir
so
Khan
happy.
film. I'm sorry.
There's
It's
only 2
2
left on
hours
the
and
wheel.
45 minutes. So
Oh, good.
Short one.
That's a yeah.
You know what?
All
The
right.
times don't even matter anymore. Does anyone really?
not when
bothered
Amir
by the
Khan is in
time?
it.
No.
Well, I mean, they
I mean,
could
I'll
be
watch
6
a
hours.
Not when it's a
movie.
Michael
You
Although
know
Drew,
what I'm saying?
Drew, I hate to burst John's bubble right now, but he found out that Amir Khan's woke.
Yeah,
That might
he's
slow-
getting beat up for being woke. So I might have to shift my loyalties.
Well, I think that's sad that you would dim the fire inside.
Yeah, I
you
don't
that
get it.
burns
That,
for
to
him.
me, he's now up and he's up. He's now my new favorite. So can't wait. So the
He's
big news
almost
was
old enough now with a little makeup to play Being There. I don't know who mentioned that on one of the previous.
I did. I thought
You said
being there
PK
is
was like that.
compared it to
He
PK.
would be
Yeah,
great in that
I
role.
bet he would. I bet he
He
would.
would be great. They should. Amir Khan, if you're watching this, do
Sure
a
he
remake
is.
of Being There.
Yeah. Okay.
That
So
wasn't even a joke.
the big news is,
Thank you, Debbie.
other than the new rim shot machine there, the big news is that RRR got the Oscar for the best song, and we were very happy about that. So
Yeah.
My dream came
that was a
true.
good way to start
And the
week.
Oscars did a great job with it.
I think
Yes,
they
they
did
did.
too. I was
I'm
worried.
first
and
to
they did
trash the Oscars. They did not screw that up.
They really
And
did.
we
They did.
love the Karen Carpenter singing.
Yeah,
song.
that was pretty cool.
Best
That was
speech.
beautiful.
One or two of the best speeches was
Yeah.
that one. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys. So everybody, that's the film for next week. Another Amir Khan. So good.
And what's the name of the wheel again?
See, why'd you do that?
Turd
Democrat.
wheel.
Democratic.
Democratic. What's the R?
I got it. The Democratic roulette that dictates destiny.
DRDD.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll just say the Democratic roulette that dictates destiny.
No,
And I'll start
RRR
going through the
DRDD.
Okay,
I'm going to go
DRDD.
through like the last 5 or 6 or 7 Indian films and look at the ones they're suggesting and see if they're on, unless somebody else has already started, and see if they're on
Netflix or something.
or Amazon.
Streaming. Yeah, because we have to start filling the wheel up again.
The problem
we're
is a
down
lot
to
of
two.
a lot of the recommendations are on Netflix India, not Netflix
Yeah.
US.
That's what I mentioned to some people.
Yeah.
They'll mention a film and I'll say, we had that originally and we took it off because it's not
Right.
available in this country.
Right.
Hey, and guys in Baltimore, us folks in Baltimore, there's tons of them playing in Baltimore over there at the Arundel Mills.
true.
So
And
I mean,
for those who don't live in Baltimore,
I love going and seeing these films in the theater. So maybe we got to do that too.
Yeah.
So for another time. Okay, everybody, have a good week,
See ya.
and we'll see you next week.